My guest today is Flavia Russo. She is the Vice President of Customer Success at Intrinio. Welcome to the podcast, Flavia.
Hey, Andrew. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
Yeah. Why don't you just start off by telling our listeners a little bit about your own background and how you came to work at Intrinio?
Yeah, sure. So, majored in international relations, but at a very young age, right after college, I started working in finance, in a financial services company. So right from the get-go, got, involved with investments, with foreign exchange and all that good stuff, and also dealing with clients since from an early age. So, fast forwarded a few years, decided to start taking some courses in business administration. Again, I didn't have the business or finance background, so went to New York. Got my hands dirty in a business certificate at Columbia, and then I thought that I was ready for an MBA, but I wanted to do more than just business, more than just the economics, the accounting, the marketing classes that we all have at a business school. And at the time, at USF, where I got my master's, I find out that they had a very good program in business analytics, and that's how I became involved with data. Learned to code, from at a higher level, and then that's how I got into Intrinio. Knew and still know someone that was at Intrinio at the time. There was a place for sales and support at the time, and why not? Since I was doing, again, business with some business analytics, and that opportunity was, it was great.
Yeah. Can you talk about how you convinced Intrinio that we needed to have account management and customer success? Because when you started, that wasn't even a thing for Intrinio. So, how did you make the case to the organization that was something we needed to be doing?
We always had a great support, great support system, if you will, to our customers. We used to run chat 7 days a week, and we were always fast. We were super responsive via chat and email. Okay, great, and that was one part of the puzzle. The other part of the puzzle that we were missing is the customer success, the account management aspect of it. We were, a super small team, but we were, again, great on support, great on sales, but then the management of accounts was the thing that was missing. And I came to realize that it wasn't good enough to follow up with clients a week before their contract was renewing. There must, at the time, I thought there must be something else that we can do to engage these clients, to be on call with them, I don't know, every month, every quarter, whatever the case may be, and just know what they're doing, what's going on within their organization, what are their plans. Are they growing? Are they not growing? Are they staying? Are they promoting? Are they firing people? So what's going on? Because at the end of the day, whatever happens with our clients, it's going to impact us for good or for bad, right? So that's how I came to realize that we already had a great structure in place. We just needed to expand and kind of start something new on the customer success realm.
Yeah, and it made a huge difference. I know that churn was a big problem for Intrinio. Clients would come in and they would leave very often, and we had these large churn numbers. How did that account management piece and that proactive reaching out to those accounts, not just right before they renew, but earlier, and building the relationship and learning what's going on with them, how did that translate into reducing churn?
Well, it translates really well because, first of all, there's some churn that is inevitable, unfortunately. Things change, projects don't work out the way, that the company thought it would work, or even companies, we work with startups a lot. We know that out of the sudden they just, many things can happen and they just cease operation. So one thing is to be aware of that few months in advance. If we can help them with, maybe freezing their contract or working with them in terms of payments, that's fine. But there's just some cases that we cannot do anything. But being with the client or even one step ahead of them, again, knowing what's happening within their organization, I think was one of the things that helped us with Churn. Another thing, we worked together on this project actually, was to move, try to do annual contracts instead of monthly. So we knew that we had the entire year to engage the client and keep helping them finding value in our solutions, instead of just that 1 month to month, which is not. It actually is not really good for the client, depending on where they are in their in their maturity. But it's not really good for us, as the company either. So that's something that we find out, that having annual contracts typically it's a positive for both sides.
Yeah. So I remember going through that discussion and adding annual contracts, and now it's like, instead of renewing a client 12 times a year, you renew them once a year, and it's actually less work for the client. But another thing that I think when you implemented account management is it actually made a big difference for sales, like negative churn. Can you talk a little bit about how like the account management work that you brought to Intrinio influences the sales of like new business actually, rather than just reducing churn?
Yeah, so it helps sales because as we discussed many times, sales needs to focus on selling, right? They need to acquire new businesses. They need to take in more clients. And then the post-sale journey, that's what we call, it's customer success, it's account management. So that first aspect, helps sales because they need to focus on the selling, the contract, and the invoicing, period. From there on, it's all customer success. So they don't need to be checking if the new account is using, if they're having some difficulties, if they want to hop on calls. That's all my team. So they're once they close that sale, they're already on to the next and that next new client. Another, and which goes along with the onboarding that we implemented at Intrinio. We never had an onboarding phase for our clients, so now we have a few months where clients are onboarding, they're integrating. We have calls with clients and our sales engineer, and they love it, right? They love it. We are in contact with them every single week. We know their milestones. We know when they're launching, when they're going live. If they need marketing support from us, we give them, whenever they're live. So that's something that we've implemented and kind of alleviated some extra work from the sales team.
Yeah, their focus has gone through the roof since your team really got off the ground. Like, they're able to just say, hey, we bring in new clients, account management takes care of the clients that we bring in and makes them successful. I love it. Can you say, like, what, over the course of a year, like, what are the touch points with a client? Like, if you're just, an average client over the course of the year, like, do you reach out to them every month, every day, every 6 months? How do you stay on track, on top of all those clients and schedule those check-ins?
Right. So it actually depends on the client. As soon as, and again, my team works, and especially me, because I am doing the onboarding now. I am the, onboarding specialist as well. So I work really closely with sales. And I love it because we're always on calls together. And the handoff has been very smoothly since onboarding, begun. So it actually depends on the client again. In my onboarding call, that's one of the questions I ask the client: how do you want to be contacted? Because some clients prefer phone, so I'm going to be calling him instead of emailing him. And I ask, and depending on what they're doing with the data, depending on their project, I ask them. So you want to be contacted via email, phone, or even Slack. Depending on the clients, we even have, we Slack. Some clients prefer being contacted every week. Some clients prefer to be contacted every month. Or I have a client very specific that he closed a contract with us, but he's not going to be using the data for another 3 months or so. So I know that he wants to be contacted at that specific date of a certain month, which is great because, it gives the client time to analyze our documentation, work internally with it, with his team, whatever he needs to do, and gives me the opportunity to just be ready whenever the client wants to start integration and start, talking to us and using our platform. So it really depends, and that's why it's great to have an onboarding, right, process, because we know, again, the dates, the type of contact, what they're doing, how long is it going to take, if they are ready or not. So that's those are the touch points that we have in place.
I love it. I didn't expect you to say that, but it makes so much sense to customize it to the client. Like, what do they prefer? I thought you were going to say, like, well, we just hit them every 6 weeks, and that doesn't make any sense. So I'm actually glad I asked you that question. What would you tell to a company like a startup that's in the place where Intrinio was a few years ago, where they don't do account management, they don't have customer success, they're just kind of like, hey, we're too busy, we don't have time for that. How would you convince them that they should add customer success and account management to their business? Like, what would you say to them?
So, customer success is a new subject, right? It started with account management, several years ago, and now it's turning into this thing where we not only help managing the account, but we're actually, we are helping our client, the company, with some strategic decisions sometimes based on products and etc. But for a small startup, I would say start with having a great support system in place, and that's exactly how Intrinio started. Again, going back, to our chat days, we were on chat 7 days a week. Weekends we were live. That's because at the end of the day, clients, they want to hear from you whenever they have a problem or an issue or even a question. They want to hear from you. They don't want to click a button that takes them to a form. They have to fill out the form, then they have to wait 5 days. So I would say start simple with a very good support system. It might be chat, it might be even an email. But you need to grow from there, which is exactly what we did. Once that is established, you need to, one person doesn't need to hire 5 people to do customer success for you initially. So start with one person, segmenting the accounts, making sure you know your client base. That's one of the first thing I've done. I think I've asked Yates, who are our clients? Who are our enterprise clients? Who are our startup level clients? Segment them by MRR or by segment or by size of their company. Know your client base. From there, you do need to reach out, introduce yourself, tell them that you're there for them, but not just as a premium support, that you're there for them, that you need and you want to understand their business, how they got there, what they're doing, what their next step, if they have, a project that they are working on and they have milestone that they need to achieve, and how they're going to achieve it, how you can help them. So I would say hopping on a call is, in the grand scheme of things, would be my advice. Talk to your customers, half an hour, to introduce yourself, to give them an update of your new team, what your team does. It's essential. So they know you, and or maybe a Zoom call with the camera on. That's a good tip too.
Yeah. And do you think that when you start building that relationship, that is what drives the new sales inside of those accounts? Would they come and tell you, hey, we have this project on our roadmap that is going to need more services, is that really just having that conversation organically creates those leads for the business?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
every single time I lost count already. Every single time myself and my team got on a call, we of course will never ask them, so do you have a new project that you will need more data or some kind of data? No, you don't ask like that, right? You can be direct, but you don't have to be that direct. So, but the questions that we ask, mid-call, they always say, "Oh, and by the way, I was gonna tell you, I was gonna reach out to you. We are thinking about this, this, and that. Do you have that? Or how can you help me, with this data or that project or whatever the case might be?" So it is so organic. And when we start hopping on calls with client, probably a year, almost 2 years ago, I was just blown away of how many times that happened. And it's typically right mid-call that we kind of change the course of the call to, now let's talk about the project that you have in mind and that probably you're going to need more data for it. But again, it's not a sales call. It's just, I want to hear from you. I want to know about your project. I want to know about your product. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, and that has led to negative churn for consistently at Intrinio for a long time now, where instead of having churn be a big problem, we're able to grow our accounts more than churns in a given quarter, and that's made a huge difference. Can you talk a little bit about where you want to take account management and customer success next? Like, what are some of the things that you would add to take it to the next level?
Yeah, so right now we have 3 people on my team, including me. So me and 2 more people, Preston and Nick, and of course they're doing a tremendous job. One of the things that when I created the team and started having, we need customer success, we need to, to better manage our accounts, I envisioned that a customer success team needs to have verticals, and that's what we've been doing. It's not silos, but verticals. Like we have the onboarding vertical, which, I'm responsible for. Then we have what we call the engagement and support vertical, which is Preston's. And then we have renewal and upsell, or renewal and expansion, that is Nick's. So that is established, and it has been working really well for the past 8 months or so. And again, not silos, because things in our team at least, or for Intrinio at least, works, comes up and works so organically that sometimes Preston is on a call with a client, an engagement call or a marketing initiative call, and the expansion opportunity comes up that he takes to Nick to work the trial phase and the contract phase and the pricing aspect of it, right? But where I want to take the customer success team, of course, I think the team needs to grow over the next quarters, the next couple of years. We are going to be onboarding two members in the coming months, which is going to be great. And one of them is going to be focusing on the more technical aspects of support. That's one of the things that we have in place for her. Of course, it's very new, but we still need to have that support aspect within the customer success team, because that's so valuable. And every startup has it needs a support person. I think the onboarding vertical it's one of the essential ones as well. That it needs to expand, it needs to improve, and then of course the expansion piece, right? The expansion piece is super important as well. Depending on what your company does, expansion either happens more automated, or it needs a personal touch. For it. So I don't think the verticals needs to be expanded that much. I just think that we need to, consolidate it and kind of expand what we're going to do within each vertical.
Well, I'm not going to make you talk about superheroes like Nick did, but could you maybe just tell us your favorite place to scuba dive and why you love it so much?
Yeah. Okay. I probably have a very, very long list, but of course I can only talk about the things that I've done. So I have recently gone to an island of the coast of Brazil, which is not very known, but anyway, it's this not remote island, but it's just great to scuba dive. It's called Fernando de Noronha. It's off the coast of Brazil. It's Brazilian territory, but feels like you are on a Caribbean island. Amazing, great scuba diving. You see sharks, you see dolphins, you see whales, you see rays, and it's just it is just you can go very shallow and you see life. You can go very deep and you see life. So probably the best place, probably the best trip of my life. Wow. Right at our backyard. So glad I went there. And I would say second place, just because of easiness, Bonaire. Just easy, short dive, gear up, and you go.
Do you like seeing sharks? Like you mentioned, like seeing all this life, and you're like, "Hey, there's sharks." It's like that's part of the fun
sharks?
for you.
I did a shark dive at West Palm Beach once. The ones where they feed the sharks, and there were lemon sharks. They're very curious creatures. Let's just say that they come right at your face, and then you have to do that kind of move. They actually teach you. Oh, if the shark comes next to your face, you just push them away. I do, but I respect, right? Like I don't chase, I don't pet, I just look. And that's what you're supposed to do with, any marine life, especially the places that you cannot dive with gloves. Typically marine sanctuaries, you cannot dive with gloves, so you don't touch things that can burn you or bite you. So I keep my distance, but yeah, I enjoy it.
Wow, you're so much braver than I would be. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show today, Flavia. That was a blast.